It's time! It's time! You like that? You like that? Woo!
It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutt. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, fresh from Thanksgiving, is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Fresh after that Lions game.
Ooh.
Oh. Literally, I'm saying this to someone earlier today. The Lions' possession straight after half-time, down by 2 scores, taking 10 minutes off the clock to establish the run, was one of the more pointless things I've ever seen in my adult life.
It would have been all right if you would have, scored 7 points.
Yeah, but unless drives where you go more than 10 plays and every single one of them was a run, unless they're suddenly worth 9 points if you score a touchdown, it was pathetic. It was the Texans just like, yeah, we know we can't stop the run, but by all means keep going, because it's not like you're in a hurry up when you do it.
We will get more onto that game momentarily. We are recording on a Friday after Thanksgiving. At some point there will be a Steelers-Ravens game to talk about. That may be in 3 weeks' time, however, as that's just been flexed to Tuesday. Enjoy that, Steelers fans.
Especially as well, the Ravens are supposed to be playing on Thursday night again.
I know, yeah. Well, the Cowboys against the Cowboys.
Yeah,
again, because they've decided that's a thing now. So this week we're going to quickly recap the Thanksgiving games because I very rarely get a chance to talk about my team looking good,
competent,
dominant,
competent.
Both of those things.
They weren't playing an NFL defense. It was competent.
Yeah, they weren't playing an NFL defense. That is accurate. Anyway, we also thought it'd be a good time to look at the power rankings, as in mine and Neil's power rankings. And Neil's also got some other ranking-based systems to use. So we will tell you who our top 10 teams are right now, and who our bottom 3 are. And then we'll do the usual fancy stuff. Fancy darling, fancy loser, and DFS teams of the week. So Neil, let's start this bad boy off by looking at what you've already started discussing, which is Lions versus Texans. And we regularly have this conversation probably once every couple of years. But when is someone going to put this Lions fan base out of its misery and not put them on this game?
They are playing every Thanksgiving because it's been like grandfathered in. Probably because it was originally their idea to play on Thanksgiving back in the 30s, and it was also financed by the Ford company.
Yeah.
Originally, yeah, that was back in the day when the Detroit Lions were relevant. When they had Bobby Lane and Dick LeBeau playing for them, and George Plimpton doing Paper Lion. They were a relevant, dominant team. They are not relevant. They're certainly not dominant, and it basically puts them on show for the rest of the free footballing world, who don't really watch the Lions every week, gets to see them once a year and look and go, oh my God.
When do you think Jim Nantz and Tony Romo stopped paying attention on the game and just started talking like two old dudes playing chess? Because it felt like halfway through the second quarter.
Well, it was the fact that Jim Nantz made the wonderful remark linked back to the Detroit Lions president who first decided to play on Thanksgiving because his name was the same name as his father-in-law. It's like, Jesus, Jim, is this what we've come to now, Jim?
That wasn't with 2 minutes left in the game, by the way. That was early in the third quarter he made that joke.
Yeah. It's like, this is lovely, Jim, but, you're not on the golf now. You don't need to be filling in the dull moments with that type of colour. I think Romo would literally just, look, I've not had a good week. I'm tired. It's a long season. And I really could have done without this.
And they're again on Sunday, right? They have Patriots-Chiefs.
Yeah.
So if you think that they weren't watching Patriots-Chiefs tape while this game was on, you're sorely mistaken.
I can't help you.
On this, Neil, what do you think?
Someone at the door.
Someone at the door. Hopefully someone will get it. Someone's at the front door. Thanks, Alexa.
Somebody at the door.
I love all that. How good is Deshaun Watson?
Oh, he's brilliant. He toyed with them. Didn't look good to start with. I think it was a very lethargic opening drive, but from what I gather from a time when Jim and Tony were engaged, that is not an uncommon occurrence this year. So they didn't look great with the gate, but once he got settled into a groove, he just looks... you look at his numbers, it's beyond efficient. It was devastating. 17, 25, 311 and 4 touchdowns. He was very, very good. And he wasn't good in a... oh my God, he's going to make miracle plays. He was good in that he did what was expected of him, but a little bit more. It was a joy to watch a quarterback in an offense that, aside from, Will Fuller is probably in that second tier of wide receiver on his day. Duke Johnson, I love him and always will, but he's not exactly Dalvin Cook. It was just, they handled the business. You always felt that they had an extra gear if needed.
When do we get into what year will it be when we get into the Deshaun Watson conversation of if only he could get a good team around and, with this elite play he's doing? I
started 2 years ago, mate. If you anytime you want to catch up, you called him, he's the second coming of Jay Cutler.
he's going to really struggle, as we think we've discussed multiple times this season, that the team are going to be heavily against the cap, going to lose a lot of talent and have got no picks. That's an issue. So, enjoy the Deshaun Watson cameos while you can, because his team will probably not be good for about 3 years. Speaking of teams that aren't good and haven't been good for a long time, how about them Cowboys, Neil?
If you're going to lose your left tackle and then your right tackle in back-to-back plays, and you're already Andy Dalton, you're going to be hampered. But it was the fact as well, at one point the offence looked like it was moving. They were in something of a rhythm just before half-time, and Mike McCarthy was arguing everything. It's like, you're killing the rhythm of this team. Not their own play. No, you are stifling the rhythm. You are sucking the energy out of this offence. You could tell they're looking over going, Coach, do you want to shut up and call the play? Jesus, where they got one of them. It was a bad spot. They got given a first down, and the booth said, no, that's wrong. And McCarthy's always like, mate, I have eyes. I can see that wasn't a first down. I didn't need 3 replays. I didn't need it to go to Ron Al Riveron to tell me it was wrong. It was, but they didn't look like they had an answer to the Washington defense, which is a very good defense, especially up front. But you put in a backup left tackle to your backup left tackle against the likes of Chase Young or Jonathan Allen. No, I'm terribly sorry. You're not in. It's going to be a long day, especially against a team that Washington. I'll give them their dues. I think they know what they want to do on offense, and they executed it. I.e., they want to run the ball ideally, and when you can't run the ball, you can't stop the run. You're just letting them do it.
I think I've watched Washington in their many guises since 1989.
Condolences.
And what I would say is over the past maybe 15 of those years, it always freaks me out when Washington looks like a competent team capable of doing not what they want, but what teams who win games do. Win turnover battles, don't give up stupid penalties, get off the field on third down, make third down plays, not fall for stupid special teams plays, stuff like that. And they did all those things last night, and as we quite rightly point out, they're 4-7. Like, let's not suggest that they're any good, because they're not. But they are 4-7 weirdly, and losing 2 games on the final play. They also have a group of young, talented players on both offense and defense who you're like, interesting. Are they like, oh, next year they're going to be great? No. But they have a coach who knows what he wants to do and attempts to do that. I don't think they've had that in, forever, maybe. Are they going to go anywhere with Alex Smith? No. Do they still need a franchise quarterback? Yes. Are they going to get one? Well, probably not now, because They just won that game, and that means there's 3 teams below them in the NFC East. That was a bit silly if they wanted to do that. But, you know, you beat Dallas twice in the season. That's, you know, good for fan bases. You know, beating Dallas is a good thing. They've still got to play the Seahawks and the Steelers. That's not good. And you watch the game, and they have the number 1 pass defense in the league. Like, I don't know how that metric comes about because I watch it and they're not. They have Mr. Darby playing as a corner. Therefore, it's physically impossible because he's a piece of burnt toast.
Yeah.
Chase Young is fun.
He has 2 plays burnt or holding.
Yeah, correct, right? And he used both of them. I know, although one of the reasons Mike McCarthy was moaning is one of them was missed because he held Amari Cooper. Chase Young is fun. Deron Payne is fun. Logan Thomas is fun. Antonio Gibson, fun. McLaurin is a star.
Oh,
He's
God,
just
yeah.
a star. You know, they maybe only win 2 more games, though. They'll be 6-10. They're not great. But they're better and they're competent, and I see a plan on what they're trying to do, and I haven't seen that in a long time.
It's starting to vindicate the decision to bench Dwayne Haskins when it did, because Ron Rivera saw a division he could win, and it was clear his goal is, no, I want to win games. Front offices want to build next year's team. I want to win games, and he clearly thought, well, if I get a winning season and it affects the draft position, heartbreaking, that's your job to fix. But I want to win this crappy division. I mean, it is weird that how similarly bad records all 4 teams in this division could have, while 3 of them pick in the top 10 and the winner will pick 20th.
I know, right?
Which, yeah.
It's interesting. I think Washington still have to play the Eagles, and someone else who's not very. But then you've still got to play, as I said, they've still got to play Seattle and the Steelers. They're 3-2 in division, so they've only got the issue for Washington is they've only got 1 more chance to win a game against another NFC East team. If you see what I mean. So and if they get to the playoffs, they get to the playoffs. If they don't, they don't. It doesn't make any difference. They'll get beat by whoever it is. At the moment, I think it's Seattle lead face. But yeah, it's redundant anyway. It would be another year where they lost a home playoff game, and another season where they lost a playoff game. So whatever, I feel the same as if the Giants, the Cowboys, or the Eagles do it. The weird thing about it, I think, at the moment, is that the 2 teams who look more likely to make the playoffs based on how they're playing is Washington and the Giants, which is mind-blowing to me from the start of the season.
Yeah, the Cowboys just look depleted. I'm not going to, obviously going into the game, a lot of the players were going in with heavy hearts because of events off the field.
Of course.
And while I know that something like that can often have a galvanising effect on a team, like you're playing for him, just look at Washington and Sean Taylor, 2007, for evidence. I just think with everything that's gone wrong with Dallas this year, it was just one more thing that they probably couldn't cope with.
You have that loss, Neil, and then as you quite rightly point out, within 3 players you've lost your 2 starting linemen. And instead of being galvanised, you're like, oh my God, everything's falling on top of us.
Yeah. So I just think that everything's going wrong for the Cowboys. And, for reasons beyond football, it's obviously sad, one of them. Whereas the Eagles just look shite.
Yeah, what I would say is, and we look at Washington and how well Antonio Gibson played and whatever, and we just take a moment to say, whatever you do, Washington, don't do what Dallas did.
Yeah.
As that guy who ran for 32 yards and fumbled by falling over looks done. Like completely
and
done.
uncuttable.
And completely and utterly uncuttable.
Had about as much speed and elusiveness as a bin lorry.
He was horrific. And
has been.
Yeah, and because of how much they are paying him, there's a chance that they don't pay Dak Prescott.
You hate to see it.
You do. Anyway, let's move on, Neil. That was Thanksgiving, and let's move on to talk about our power rankings. So usually me and Neil in the middle of the week think about what we're going to talk about. And given where we are in the season, we thought we would give you our top 10 best teams and our top 3 worst teams, just to kind of talk about, see what we think, blah blah blah, that kind of caper. So, and Neil's also, I believe, got Numberfire's NERD rankings. No, not them, not Pharrell Williams. You know, the actual rankings themselves. So Neil, first of all, give me your top 10. Go 10 to 1 if you can.
10 to 1. Bear with me just a second. It's a very top-heavy league this year, I think. I think there's a lot of the teams that are at the top are justifiably so. Whereas I don't think there's... You know, sometimes you get that, if they could squeeze into the playoffs, maybe they'll go on a run. I don't see that happening this year. I think the NFL, the Super Bowl winner is coming out of the top teams. So if we go by NERD, the top 10 is... And there's going to be disagreement, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is based on their net expected point metrics over the course of a season. So a higher number obviously means a better team. So 10 is the San Francisco 49ers. 9 is the Tennessee Titans. 8 the Cardinals. 7 the Packers. 6 the Ravens. 5 the Saints. 4 Buccaneers. 3 Kansas City Chiefs. 2 Pittsburgh Steelers. 1 the Los Angeles Rams. Now, again, based on this, and based on other metrics as well, Numberfire have their odds to win the Super Bowl, or percentage chance to win the Super Bowl. And that looks a bit different to NERD. So again, we'll go from 1 to 10. Or 10 to 1, sorry. So at 10th best odds are the Arizona Cardinals, 2.4%. Then the Tennessee Titans again, 2.7%. The Baltimore Ravens at 6.1%. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8%. The Green Bay Packers at 8.2%. Rams 8.4%. Seahawks 9.4%. Saints 11.2%. Steelers number 2 again, 16.9%. And 18.4%, the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's a numbers-based power ranking. That's not opinion. That is metrics that I've come up with them. So I've presented that. I'd like to hear your opinion-based musings.
So I looked at this. I think it's quite difficult. What I would say is I haven't got the Ravens in the top 10. That is only based on what I've seen this season. Now that could be wrong. Now, because, like, for example, I've got the Bucks in, and I think the Bucks are about to go to 6-5. So you know, this is where this falls into a difficult world, right? And you start talking yourself around. So I've got Bucks at 10. I've got Titans at 9. I've got Packers at 8. Colts at 7. Seahawks at 6. Rams at 5. Bills at 4. Saints at 3. Steelers at 2. And Chiefs at 1. What I would say is the assumption with the Saints is that Drew Brees is back before the playoffs, even if we did have a, you know, fun time with Taysom last week, and we will talk Taysom Hill a bit later. But yeah, that is mine. So I think the Bucs are talented. If they stop, you know, arguing between the head coach and the quarterback, that'd be cool. The Titans are the Titans. I like them. The Packers have played well in spurts, but struggled in others. The Colts are held back by their quarterback, in my opinion, and I like Phil Rivers and his 57 kids. The Seahawks are held back by their defense, which is, you know, non-existent. The Rams are interesting.
Boring.
Yes, but boringly efficient in a good way. The problem is, what if you get in Jared Goff's head? That's an issue. The Bills have loads of talent, and a lot of that talent is their quarterback, but he's also the reason that they may not win. The Saints are are the most talented team in the NFC, I think, quite easily. I think there's two things that, you know, one thing will be how Drew Brees does, and I will say a special shout out to our friend Chal, and it's whether Sean Payton can actually win a playoff game in a big moment for the first time since 2006. That would be cool, considering it's 20-20. The Steelers are good. They're 10-0, right? They're really good defense. Then they should be explosive, and they're not, in my opinion, and that is a concern. And the Chiefs are the final play in the game against the Raiders last week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Let's run to the right, throw it across our body to a wide open Travis Kelce. Okay, let's do that.
I think just calling on a few of your points there, I wonder if Bruce Arians hasn't already had enough of Tom Brady's shit. And by that I mean, this is not a Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison situation. This is not a wide receiver you have thrown to for 10 years. This is a player who is a reprehensible human being who you threw to for one game, and you have moved into your house, and now you want to force feed him. Because, I mean, I think we all know that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were not exactly golfing buddies. But I've never ever heard Bill Belichick come out and say the thinly veiled, and not even particularly thinly veiled criticism. No, he is calling out Tom Brady's play. Now, I wonder whether it's just a question of, I don't think he recognised that coverage. It's Tom Brady, Bruce. I think he's seen everything. It's just got a slightly diminishing arm strength, and maybe he just wants to force feed Antonio Brown, and that's what you don't like.
I think what we should say is that Bruce Arians has made Tom Brady try and throw it long or deep more times in the first 10 games they've had together than Bill Belichick has in 5 years. Maybe if you watched every time he threw it long for the New England Patriots, you'd understand why he didn't really do it that often. He can do it, but not consistently and not often. This always becomes, a quarterback versus system debate, right? No one's suggesting that Tom Brady's a system quarterback. I am not. What I'm suggesting is that the way Bruce Arians likes to play does not suit all of the skills of Tom Brady, and maybe Bruce might need to rein it in a bit. I don't think he needs to be throwing deep outs, especially when you've got players like Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin, who are possession-style receivers. You watched, if you go back to Washington, they're not exactly throwing it 80 yards down the field because they can't.
No.
So they matriculate their way down the field, right? Bruce doesn't particularly like doing that, and that's an issue.
He famously called the West Coast offense dink and dunk crap.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, the offense that propelled the San Francisco 49ers into a dynasty and has been knocked off by majority of coaches around the NFL, but it's dink and dunk crap. Okay. Also, as well, we can't get past. It was another late game.
Well, this is
past
the thing,
Tommy's
right?
bedtime.
I want to tell anyone, but again, it was past Tom's bedtime. This week they play 4:25. Oh no, they don't. No, they don't. No, they play some. When do they play? I just realised that I don't know when they play. But where do you think? Do you think the Rams are the second best team in the NFC based on what I'm saying?
Based on the fact that they're an execution-based offense, and I don't think anybody's ever thought that would be the case. But they are now. We know what we're going to do. We'll just, we will play to our strengths in a given week. They passed the ball all over the park against Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay's defense, which looked beastly a few weeks ago, was starting to show a few cracks. So, we applaud them. To say that they're the second best team in the NFC would not be a stretch. It's just a question of they're not exactly a second best team that you look at and think, oof, anything happens to the one seed and, look out.
Yeah, exactly right. I think the Bucks do play 4:25 Eastern, so right within Tom Brady's sweet spot. Bills of 4, Neil. It seems high, but I just looked and thought I like them better than the other AFC teams I've got here, and they did beat the Rams.
They did. the Bills are saving a very pleasant surprise. They are, in terms of Super Bowl odds, they're at 2.3%, so they're just a little bit out of it. Because, and again, we've seen all the offensive firepower that Josh Allen brings to bear. Stephon Diggs has been a wonder signing. John Brown, Cole Beasley, these have chipped in. They get something from the running backs, but not to be too excited to. But defensively, they're a mess. And it's come down to, we're going to get into a shootout with the Chiefs. And basically, we need you to match Mahomes and not make a mistake. No.
That's a no from me, Bob.
Yeah.
Do you look at the fact that the Steelers are 10-0, but I've picked the Chiefs at 1, and think, are we underestimating what the Steelers are capable of?
No, the Steelers are. It's weird. They're quite an unheralded 10-0 team,
yeah.
And I was trying to think, when was the last time that a team started this well and got so little respect, as it were? And the only one I can think of was the 2008 Titans, who also started 10-0 based on their defense, based on a strong running game. They did have Chris Johnson and Lendale White, but they had an aging quarterback who you thought, if this comes down to, if this comes down to something, he's not going to make enough plays. Their quarterback was, of course, the aging Kerry Collins. And I just think that we've seen with the Steelers, they're not leaning on the ground game because they get nothing out of it. And basically they're relying on Ben Roethlisberger to get the ball out to his playmakers. Now, it can work. Their defense is excellent. Obviously, looking ahead to this game against the Ravens, that might happen, won't happen, will happen, won't happen, might just get forgotten about, no one will ever notice. Their defense does rank first in an awful lot of the key categories. But I think it's a question of, if it came down to, a late playoff game against the Chiefs, eventually all these roads, these teams are going to have to meet if the Steelers want to win the Super Bowl. I would still back the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid to pull a play out their arse, whereas I'm sure, the Steelers could do something, but I just don't think they would.
No, I don't either. If you're interested in power rankings, you like that sort of thing, they're our top 10. Neil, who are your bottom 3?
Bottom 3, well, one of them is clear. It's the New York Jets, the first team, to be eliminated from postseason contention this year. I think after last night, I'd be tempted to put the Detroit Lions at 2, because they just look listless. They can score points. Yeah, they've scored 20 points. I think was it 9 of 10 games now, or 10 of 11, however many they've played. But their defense is terrible. What do they do well? Nothing. And while the temptation would be to put the Jacksonville Jaguars somewhere in there, I'm going full on, because I've completely checked out. The Philadelphia Eagles are the third worst team in football for me, because they're directionless, they're rudderless, don't know what they want to do, they don't know where they're going, and it's looking. I've already come to terms with the fact that 2021 could be a 2-14 horror show. But I want to get to it now. I don't want to watch this for the rest of the season.
I look and think Jets are definitely 32nd, right? And there's a lot of that, and I've already got me Kyle Shanahan, 3rd round pick for Sam Darnold music here playing.
Oh yeah.
I think 31, mainly probably due to the fact that Joe Burrow was injured by Washington, naughty Washington, is the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the quarterback who's playing this week joined them about half an hour ago. So yeah, I've got the Jags at 30 because I think they're playing Mike Glennon this week. If that isn't chef's kiss tanking, I don't know what is. Like, we could play Gardner Minshew. He's fit, but we're not going to. We're going to play Mike Glennon because that gives us a better chance to lose.
Have you heard the circle of life regarding Mike Glennon? I did mention it. I think, just for the benefit of everyone else, Mike Glennon has been brought in for Jake Luton, who was brought in for Gardner Minshew, who was brought in for Nick Foles, who was originally brought in for Mitchell Trubisky, who was originally brought in for Mike Glennon. So there it is, the circle of life, as Elton would no doubt sing. The thing I slightly disagree with the Bengals in that, yeah, they look hapless. The defense looks like it lacks teeth. But I think if you ask the Bengal fan, But in 2021, if Burrow comes back and you invest in this team, he showed enough to be hopeful for. Whereas I look at the Eagles, and the salary cap situation is a mess. The quarterback looks broken. I have no faith in the general manager anymore. It's an ageing roster. I have nothing to look forward to, the Eagles, except maybe hoping that they'll be good in 2023.
First of all, you both drew. Let's go there first. When they had Joe Burrow, Bengals have less wins than the Philadelphia Eagles with Joe Burrow, who now has a torn ACL and MCL. He won't be ready. And other damage, which we're unaware of. He won't be ready for the start of next season. So I don't understand how you have any less hope than that. As in, they need to now draft accordingly to fit additional players around him. I believe, and I'm no draft expert, but I was listening to Dan Brugler from The Athletic, pick the tackle from Oregon, Cincinnati. That is your job.
Is it just the fact that maybe that I just expect that the Bengals fans have such low expectations that it really doesn't matter what happens, whereas the Eagles, fans thought this was going to be their year?
Well, yeah, I think that there's a...
I'm hitting them with the expectation tax.
Yeah, exactly right. And, you expected them to be good and they're not good. We can all laugh about how bad the NFC East is, but Washington have probably got as many wins as everybody expected them to have at this point, and so have the Giants. The issue is Dallas and Philadelphia have 4 or 5 less wins than everyone thought they had. So it's not that the NFC East gets lumped into this massive crater of poop, but in theory, Washington and New York are doing exactly what everyone expected them to do at the start of the season. It's Dallas and Philadelphia who haven't. Those two teams are terrible right now. They are bad. They're poorly coached, in my opinion. They have major issues at quarterback for this year and next year in slightly different situations. And talent that they should be relying on, or they believe they could rely on, can't be relied upon anymore. Their concerns for those two teams, are they as bad as the Jets, Bengals and Jags? In my opinion, well, no, they're not. But it doesn't mean they're anywhere outside the top 20. They're between 25 and 32. Of course they are. Watch the games, they're terrible. Let's move on, Neil. Let's get on to the fantasy side of the show. Let's cheer ourselves up a bit and let's get a bit of fancy darling action.
Hello, darling.
Well, my fancy darling, obviously one of them, I'm wearing his jersey, Mr. Derek Carr, and they're playing the Falcons. Obviously the Falcons are a defense we wish to attack, especially at quarterback and wide receiver. However, my big fantasy darling this week is Mr. Wayne Gallman Jr. He has actually been very good for the Giants in the last few weeks. If you look at his game log, he's had 14 for 68 against Washington, 18 for 53 and 2 touchdowns against the Eagles. Not doing too much in the passing game. He's got 3 receptions the last 3 games. The Giants are playing the Bengals, who, as we said, are on to their third choice quarterback. Now, just to understand, if you think so little of Ryan Finley that you're going to start someone who was on the practice squad until 20 seconds ago, why did you have Finley on the roster? Did he bring the cakes? Is that what it is? But anyway, they have an awful defense. They have an awful game script. The Giants are likely to dominate this game, and I think that means Wayne Gallman should see a healthy dose of work. So I'm not saying he's going to be a running back 1, but as someone to plug in as a high-end RB2 and maybe as a flex option, I certainly like Wayne Gallman this week.
Okay, Neil. Let's move over and talk fancy loser.
Now, the Chiefs, as we say, are playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. While their passing defense has looked a bit weak of late, they're still stout against the run. Now, everyone is, falling over themselves to say how disappointing Jonathan Taylor has been this season, because he has. But I don't think we shouldn't really hide the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't been that great either. Obviously, he had a decent fancy game against the Raiders, but that was just because he found the end zone twice. So you look apart from that, it's 3 games prior to that, 12.4 fancy points, 6.1, 13.3. Don't think that's what people signed up for. Now, the Bucs, as I say, are a lot more stout against the run than they are through the air. And we've seen in the past that the Chiefs will just decide, oh, the running game isn't working, well, balls to it then, we'll just put it in Mahomes' hands. So I think people may need to adjust their expectations for CH this week. And, obviously there's a good chance if you've got him, you're going to have to start him. But if you could look elsewhere, maybe it might be worth knocking him down a peg or two.
Fantastic. That's darlings and losers. Let's move on to a smaller slate than usual and give you our daily fancy teams of the week.
Mains and duds. Daily fantasy team of the week.
Show me the money.
Show me the money, indeed. Quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense and special teams. Neil, kick us off with your quarterback, please.
5,700 Las Vegas Raiders at Atlanta Raiders. Did somebody say, just eat? Yes, they did. It's Derek Carr.
It's outrageous, really, if you think about it. That Derek Carr playing as well as he is, which is undeniable, and has cost me, I don't know, a kebab, a Chinese, an Indian, I don't know, whatever you want.
Still weighing it up.
Is only 5,700 against the Atlanta Falcons, who flat out stink.
I think it's probably because in 2 games against the Kansas City Chiefs, Derek Carr has 6 touchdowns. In games against everyone else, he has 13. So obviously what this means is Derek Carr is a baller and plays when the lights are brightest.
Of course. My quarterback one is a tight end, Neil. Was a tight end last week. I have gone for Taysom Hill while I get the chance, because that's what you've got to do. New Orleans at the Denver Broncos, a tough matchup. Of that, there is no doubt. The Vic Fangio rubbing his hands in delight, but he doesn't have to throw a lot, Neil, because he'll do the other 57 things Swiss Army knife style that Sean Payton will get him to do. I had him in my UK Fantasy League as my second quarterback in Superflex, and I won last week. Bingo for me. 7-4 and still in the playoff hunt. Taysom Hill, 6,200. Yes, please.
The people who were pissing and moaning last week about the fact he had tight end eligibility are the only people pissing and moaning because they tried to get him and didn't. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest about it, right? That wasn't cute by ESPN at the start of the year. It was like a smarmy, smart ass. He's not a quarterback, so we're going to give him tight end. Bravo. And then you had to, walk it back because he started as a quarterback and, scored 25 points.
Yeah. A few years ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they had an injury, they had to start Jalen Samuels. And in Yahoo leagues, Jalen Samuels was tight end eligible. Well, I'm starting a running back at tight end if I can. Especially in PPR.
Exactly. Neil, who's your running back one?
Running back one, Minnesota at the Carolina Panthers. Sorry, Carolina at Minnesota, 9,500. Let Dalvin Cook.
I also have running back one, 9,500. Dalvin Cook. There's establishing the run, and then there's what Minnesota do with Dalvin Cook on a weekly basis.
Yeah. The best thing is their Twitter page was bigging up the fact that they were talking about Justin Jefferson, about how it really wasn't a tough decision to draft him or whatnot, and how good he was. And as fast becoming a legend on this show, Warren Sharp went, great, use him.
Exactly right. Running back two, Neil.
Running back two, I did consider Derrick Henry because I thought about the volume. But then I thought, the Colts have actually been quite good against the run this year, against running backs. They've lost a few players today, though. They've lost Danico Autry, and I don't think DeForest Buckner's playing either. But I digress. I don't want Derrick Henry. I want Nick Chubb, because the Browns are finally not playing in a monsoon. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Mike Glennon-led Jacksonville Jaguars. They sent the other Josh Allen to injured reserve this year. They have a decimated defense, and they're still pushing the New York Jets. So I think Chubb is going to get a healthy dose of carries. If you want to play Kareem Hunt, he's obviously a bit cheaper, and as well, if you've got him in redraft, I don't hate that either. But I want Nick Chubb because I just think he's a much better running back to watch. And I say last week against the Eagles, it's like that stiff arm. Nick, that man had a family.
That was a bit naughty. What I'm going to say is I've gone the other way on this one, and I've gone for my running back to be Kareem Hunt, 5,600. Given the same kind of situation, right? I assume this will be a could be close to a blowout for Cleveland in some situations, and that may mean you rest Chubb for future events. And given that, then I expect Kareem Hunt to get a lot of play mid-third quarter into fourth quarter, and hopefully get a lot of points from that. So 5,600. Yeah, get you probably mid-teens to 20 points. Let's do it.
I think they both could deliver.
Sorry,
I think they both could deliver. I think it's one of those. I don't think it's an either or,
because that's what their offense is completely built around. Because at the moment, we can hide the fact that the reason they haven't thrown is because they played 74 games on the run inside a monsoon cyclone. But the reason they haven't thrown is because Kevin Stefanski doesn't really trust Baker Mayfield to throw it. Wide receiver 1, Neil.
Wide receiver 1, Devontae Parker. The Miami Dolphins are playing the New York Jets. Parker has shown some chemistry with Tua. I really like, from a winning mindset, I liked what they did last week. It was, we want to win this game. Tua, you're not giving us the best chance to do it. Sit down. Because it shows to Tua, look, just because we've turned the keys over to you, we're evaluating every single play. And if you're not going to help us win, you need to take a pew. They are playing the Jets. The Jets have been feisty on offense the last couple of weeks, but defensively they're getting worse, and it doesn't help when they start cutting corners, literally cutting corners, and sending others to injury reserve or whatnot. So Devontae Parker, 5,900.
And what I will say is it just come up on the injury report that Tua is questionable with a thumb, and Ahmad is out as running back this week. But
get Fitz in.
But that's what I'm saying. Fitz to Parker. It actually probably makes the Devontae Parker move even better. But there we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, wide receiver 1, probably this season's second best wide receiver in the NFL. It's Stephon Diggs, 7,600. He's playing the LA Chargers. This could be a shootout. I look forward to watching him and Keenan Allen all over the place, because it's going to be cool watching them catch it 15 times each.
Do you remember when the Chargers wanted to go with Tyrod Taylor and not throw to their running backs?
When do we talk about the fact that the only reason we know that Justin Herbert is freaking awesome is because of malpractice?
Once the lawsuit is settled, and the Chargers have a new head coach who's going to let Justin Herbert rock. Keenan Allen, by the way, is so good.
He's unreal.
And he's still underrated.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He's not underrated in the multiple fantasy teams I've got him in, because everybody else went for someone else, and I went, I'll take Keenan Allen, thank you very much, and be very happy about it.
I mean, I was right for the wrong reasons, because I said, even if at the start of the season, I was like, Tyler Taylor's going to be the quarterback the majority of the season, but who else is he going to throw it to? They turn it over to Herbert, and who else is he going to throw it to?
Wide receiver 2, Neil.
Wide receiver 2 was Curtis Samuel in the Panthers at Vikings game. And Curtis Samuel he's not getting as many targets as DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, but because they're mixing him in as a running back, he is returning like wide receiver 2 numbers. He's 5,100, and I like the fact that even with Mike Davis there, they are scheming up carries for him in the red zone. So he has that touchdown upside that a normal wide receiver doesn't have.
What I would say is I picked Dalvin Cook and Stephon Diggs, so it's about to get cheap up in here. My first person pick is Michael Pittman Jr., Tennessee at Indianapolis, finally starting to break out in 5,000. In what you will find with Phil Rivers, if you know him well, of which we do because he's been playing a long time, is when he finally gets a bit of chemistry with someone, he will feed them a lot. So Michael Pittman Jr. starting to feel good in the Colts offense is good for him. And I pick him at $5,000. Who's your wide receiver 3, Neil?
I think I think it's one of those that Michael Pittman has shown that he can be good on limited opportunities because, well, he has to, because in the words of Scott Pianowski, when Frank Reich orders a dozen donuts, he wants 12 different donuts. So you're not going to get now anyone in the Colts offense who's going to get peppered with targets. My wide receiver 3 is the wide receiver 1 for the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm scheming up, pairing him up here with Derek Carr. It's Nelson, don't drop the baby, Aguilar. It obviously gladdens my heart to no end how good Nelson Aguilar has been in the silver and black, but it's a burnable matchup. The Falcons are bad. Nelson Aguilar and Derek Carr is a matchup that you want a piece of. I do worry, though, that some of Nelly's worst games in an Eagles jersey were against the Atlanta Falcons. So there may be some of that, PTSD there. But at 4,900, I'm on board.
My wide receiver 3 is Nelson Aguilar. Who's playing the Atlanta Falcons, as you said, wide receiver 1 for the LA Raiders, just as we all thought he would be at the start of the season. Oh wait, no, he was an internet meme, and he was probably an internet meme until about week 5.
I only realised about 5 weeks into the season that he was actually on my bench in one of my dynasty squads. So I was like, I completely forgot my own Nelson Aguilar, and I hadn't been starting him. I did last week.
Winner. Tight end, Neil.
Tight end is Jordan Reed. The 49ers, as we know, are one of the more injury-depleted teams in the entire NFL. And they are playing against the Rams, who are a good defence. But if they do have a weakness, it's that they can be got at through the tight end. So we saw that Jordan Reed was quite good, even with Nick Mullins earlier in the season. And when he's on the field, he tends to get targeted. So 3,600, read all about it.
I love the idea that it's an injury-depleted squad and somehow Jordan Reed is fit. I wish him all the best.
Yeah.
I hope he stays fit. My tight end is Jonnu Smith, other side of the Tennessee-Indianapolis game. He is touchdown dependent to the extreme, but I do expect him to score a touchdown, so therefore he's in. And at 4,100, it's not too much of a massive play. And when you spent your money on Diggs and Cook, these are the sacrifices you've got to make.
Do worry about Jonnu, because you won't find a bigger Jonnu or a longer standing Jonnu Smith fan than me. I just worry that he's not playing the full games anymore. So if he doesn't get his touchdown early, he's going to lose the receiving work to Anthony Ferguson. And, this is the another thing, that if Jonnu is good to go, then you plug him in and hope he'll get something. But there's just as much chance he's not going to finish the game.
Yeah. Who's your flex, Neil?
Wayne Goldman, $5,000. Giants v Bengals.
My flex is Alan Lazard, 4,600. Devontae Adams didn't practice yesterday. Limited reps today. He will play, obviously. Lazard was back this last week after a number of weeks out. Rodgers likes him, and I expect him to be wide receiver 2 in this game against the Chicago Bears, who are terrible and are starting Mitchell Trubisky.
And on prime time again.
Yeah, that's naughty. But there you go. Green Bay against Chicago has to be prime time once a year, right? That's someone's decreed it from the gods. You have to always the first game of the season on prime time has to be Dallas against either the Giants or the Eagles, right? That's just how it works. But yeah, it would help if both teams were good. But who's your defense and special teams, Neil?
The Cincinnati Bengals are starting Brandon Allen at quarterback. So who do you think? I'm going with the defense. It's the New York Giants, 3,200.
My defense and special teams is the worst passing defense in the league, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. They are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who love to give the other team the ball as much as they can in as many different stupid and idiotic ways as possible. I expect that to continue, and for 2,500, it was too good to pass up.
They averaged 1.2 sacks per game in the first 6 games of the season. Since Carlos Dunlap has come into the lineup, they've averaged 4.3. And also as well, career interceptions-wise, there is a outside linebacker in the NFL missing fingers on one of his hands, and he has more interceptions this season than Jamal Adams.
Yeah, and that's
But please give away first round picks for a box safety.
correct. I don't know. I'm not going to laugh. We gave loads of money to Landon Collins, so been there, done that. Got the "I'm with Idiot" T-shirt.
Shiny.
Let's lock it up, Neil. Quarterback.
Just before we lock up, I should just note that I've just seen the weather report for Cleveland Jacksonville at the weekend, and apparently it's going to rain. You have got to be shitting me. I know it's in Jacksonville, so it won't be the same type of rain, but are Cleveland not allowed to play when it's dry anymore? Quarterback is Derek Carr.
I've got Taysom Hill, running back 1.
Dalvin Cook.
I also have Dalvin Cook, running back 2.
Nick Chubb.
I've gone for Kareem Hunt, wide receiver 1.
Devontae Parker.
I've got Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 2.
Curtis Samuel.
I've got Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver 3.
Nelson Aguilar.
I also have Nelson Aguilar. Tight end.
Jordan Reed.
I have Jonnu Smith, flex.
Wayne Goldman Jr.
I have Alan Lazard in defense and special teams.
The New York Football Giants.
The Seattle Seahawks, which basically proves that defenses are meaningless in this game. Neil,
At least we don't have kickers.
Yeah, where can people catch you this week?
Catch you this week at Endutton13 on Twitter. Usual array of writings to be done. I won't have as much out on Ravenswire at the moment because a lot of things I write come up around when the game is played, and I'm still not sure when that's going to happen. So I might have my scouting report up for the Steelers on Monday. I might never write it. This season might be over for the Ravens. Who knows? So yeah, I'll be doing my start sit on the Twitter on Sunday from 4:00. So if you've got a question, you got any issues or queries regarding your lineup, or just want to shout at me, send it over.
Awesome. That's been a lovely show on a Friday night. These two top guys are out, and you know what? Hail to the football team.